Hello, everyone. We are here now with the Black Advancement Incorporated Book Club. My name is Ajuman Jasante Goodman, and I'm the host today. The book that we're going to be talking about today is 12 Angry Men, and we're going to be doing chapters 1 through 5. This is all a part of our book reviews, which is on our website, which is www.blackadvancement.com. Our book recommendations, our book of the month section. So, with all that being said, this book is autobiographical for several different people. It's got 12 different accounts of people and walking around and they're dealing with race. But before we get into the book broken down section by section, we're just going to start with the overall of what we thought of the book, and I'll offer my thoughts as well. But I guess I'll go with TJ first. TJ, what was your overall thought so far of the book through chapter 5?
Oh man. Um, True stories of being a black man in America today is what's on the outside of the book cover. And, I honestly, I think everyone that I know that looks like me has had some kind of experience similar to this. There are varying degrees of it. Like, some of the stories that we'll get into today, they were actually arrested and taken to jail. But being profiled and being accosted is just kind of something that's in a lot of ways par for the course. I mean, I've been pretty fortunate personally. I've only had one interaction that went a little bit sideways, but all the other times it's been all right. But it was really quite quite stunning to hear these different accounts from different parts of the country. There's in a lot of ways no real similarities between them except for the obvious one, and they were all treated pretty similarly. So that kind of says that there's a more systemic and I guess cultural issue that is causing these things to happen. So far I'm enjoying the book. They're interesting stories, and I like seeing the different backgrounds of the people that are given their accounts in here because it helps to understand the basis of their outrage for being profiled in the first place.
Yeah. Through the first 5, Jeff, what do you think?
Coming from a different perspective.
How do you mean? I'm just playing.
The obvious. It was very interesting to read because I've had, if you take the racial aspect out, my interactions with law enforcement has been very much the same. I can say in 48 years on this earth, when I've needed actual police help, they have not helped me. I won't go into, a diatribe on stories, but when it has been a perceived infraction, there they are. Again, for those who can't see, I am covered in tattoos, and and by no means do I mean to say that um compares to the black experience, because this was a choice, but it's the idea of profiling in that position, I think, is overarching a systemic problem with a large majority of the police force. I know that people say that, hey, a few bad apples, but when a few bad apples becomes commonplace in multiple stories and throughout multiple cultures, when do you stop saying it's a few bad apples and it's the system itself? That being said, there were things that I really enjoyed about this book, and then some things that I did have problems with that we can get into, because of, like I said, we'll get into it later.
Okay,
And,
no,
and I would love your guys' take on it.
most definitely, and we might double back to that later because this is a book club and this is about conversation. I'll jump in and then I'll give the last but not least to Shanice. That rhymed on purpose. So um, to something that Jeff said, and from the point of view of police, I don't view police necessarily in terms of from the uniform aspect of it. Like they're all the culture beats everything when it comes to the police. It beats race, it beats color. Once you are a part of the police, you're a part of the police. And I mean that from this perspective of if discriminating against black folks is what we doing, then black folks are going to be doing it too. So that's called policing in America. That's not a difference when it comes to what the policeman looks like, because the badge will take over for whatever you were supposed to be representing. Now, I won't say that's the case for every single black officer, as it's not the case for every single officer, but an overwhelming majority of them, it seems like you're going to come across a case of, if not profiling, of maybe perhaps over policing, or a circumstance where everybody's put in a bad situation, at least from my experiences. What I thought of the overall book was like it brought up a lot of different points for me. It brought it brought up the idea of how being white means that you will receive the benefit of the doubt every time. Like, that's kind of what it means to me. That's also what white privilege means to me, is like you get the benefit of the doubt, just period. It brought up the idea of, racist thoughts versus, racist intent. It brought up the idea of just like our whole law enforcement system, and how I don't know if there's a real fix that's going to be there. This was only the first 5 chapters, but this continues on, it's going to be really depressing. So we'll see what happens. But it's a great book, though. Highly recommended, of course. This is the book of the month. But Shanice, what do you got for us to end off this first part?
All right. So as I was reading some of the stories, because a lot of some of the stories of people were famous, and it kind of brought up that Jay-Z song, I'm not black, I'm OJ.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the police, it's just you're black, regardless. So it had several themes, like over policing certain areas, then racial profiling. So all of the themes that you hear of negatively have Black men speak of was in this book. So it's something that is not like education to me, because I grew up around men, and I grew up around Black men. I have a brother who experienced his own issues with the police. So and cousins. Just like it's nothing new. So nothing new under the sun, but the culture, regardless of where you live, whether you're in the Midwest, South, uh, West Coast, New York, it's still the same. So it definitely speaks of the theme of culture, and the need for systematic change when it comes to the way people view other people.
Yeah, indeed. And Jeff, hey man, this is gonna be your time to shine in terms of this part. I want to go over the things that you found, I guess, disagreeable in the book, because that can probably kick off a conversation that we can spill off of from there. So go ahead.
So I won't say disagree. I thought that and I made a note when they're going through the amendments very early on in the book.
Yeah, it's the first chapter. Yeah.
Yes. And it's hitting, a lot of high points, but then we get to Amendment 9. And this one I want to point out specifically because it hit me hard. I shared it with my family because I wanted their take on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, it being in the first chapter, it sets the mindset. It's actually page 12 after the forward. Amendment 9 leads into the way that you're going to view the rest of the book. And the words that they chose to put here let me read it, and then I'll explain.
Okay. Just say
Will never be treated like full citizens in America, no matter how hard they work to improve their circumstances. That hit me hard because right out the gate, I'm going to read it again, just to take it in. Will never be treated like full citizens in America, no matter how hard they work to improve their circumstances. That, to me, gives the reader a sense of hopelessness and a sense that everything that you read from here on out, that it doesn't matter what you do, how you work to improve yourself, be a role model, who you seek out as a role model, it doesn't matter. There's nothing you can do to overcome these circumstances that are being laid out. And for me, I mean, it physically hurt because it felt like it was overarchingly saying that this is not, we're not targeting it at police officers here. Because again, if you remember, he stresses on the first point of it being a white bouncer, a white bald bouncer, you know, outside of the club. And then it was a white police officer. And Ajay, I've known you what now? Almost 10 years, you know, and it's like, I don't know why it hit me so hard. It was just, it was that feeling of like the never and no matter, you know, it was like I don't want somebody to feel that way, you know, whether it be somebody reading that or the person writing this, you know, it's not.
It's defeatist, is what you're saying.
Yes, yeah,
like it's too defeatist.
It's defeatist, but it's not. I can't change the way that person feels, you know, and I don't want somebody reading it in the context that it is on them, to change the situation. You know what I mean? There's nothing that can be done. And in that respect, I get it if you take it from that perspective. You know what I mean? There's nothing you can do to change your circumstances in terms of the color of your skin, you know, but there is something you can do to bring about the discussion, you know, not in a police interaction, you know, not in what they were going through with the beer bottles breaking and you know, the vandalism and them trying to sort it out. But in an environment like this, where we can say, like, look, using words like never and absolutism, I just don't want to be that way. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Let me know if what I'm saying is making sense. I'm trying to get to the idea that there shouldn't be absolutism when it comes to something like this. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here having this conversation.
Right. Well, I think I can address it by first saying, watch your mouth. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just playing. No, I think that so from my perspective, I think when people say that they've given up hope, not necessarily in their own prospects, but hope for the system to change.
Okay.
That's how I read it. I read the idea of when people have the hopelessness around it to something like that.
Yes.
When he was saying never, he was basically saying this system is never going to change the way it treats us. That doesn't necessarily mean that he is not going to change the way he moves in the system. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
At least to me it does, because I would think that you would, if you asked 100 Black men who fully understand the situation, the same question, 75 of them will probably come back and be like, yeah, this shit is not going to change. It's never going to be different. It's not going to be, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're defeated in the idea of things aren't going to change for the better for us. We're saying more so that the system itself, at least the way that I interpret it, the system itself is not going to change. The system,
and that I agree with. What I did in addition is completely cultural and racially agnostic. I went to Google and I typed in, and I recommend not now during the discussion, but do this afterwards, because it's almost running counter to the point that I just said, because it is defeatist. I simply put into Google, cops kills motorists. And I scrolled through 3 pages. And that's all I put in. I didn't say cops kills Black motorists or white cops kills Black, just cops kills motorists. That was all I put in. And it was story after story of interactions
with white cops and black men.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And so I'm almost in complete agreement with what you're saying. And how do you change a system when time after time after time people have done this, walked free, there's been outrage, and nothing comes from it?
Yeah, that's the one. TJ, I'm gonna have TJ jump in. I'm sorry. TJ, go ahead.
Of course.
Sure. I thought that was spot on that it hit you hard like that, Jeff. Um, and what'll maybe hit you harder later is all of us have had to have those kinds of conversations with our kids, right? Because the system exists, and you can improve yourself, and you can make something of yourself. That really lends itself mostly to changing perspective around your circle, right? It doesn't, if you leave that, I'll call it box, and you go somewhere else, those people don't know anything about you. All they see is you, right? And like you were saying before, the color that we have is not something that can wash off or it was by choice or anything. So, the biases that people have are the reason for the hopelessness. Unfortunately, that that hopelessness, I guess, is in some ways baked into how the country was constructed in the beginning. It would be very difficult to separate this country from those ideals. You'd almost have to, smash it down and rebuild it anew. It's built into, mm, like I said, the structure and the system. And that amendment number 9, like you said, it does kind of set the tone for the rest of the book, or at least what we read so far. But it rings so true when you look at the profiles of the other people that came after that person, right?
Right.
None of them were like, oh yeah, I was dealing dope on the corner and those crooked cops busted me. It's that's not what's happening here, right?
Right.
Um,
No,
so
you're right.
yeah, I mean, I can appreciate that was one of those things that kind of jumped out at you and smacked you in the face. And it's unfortunate that it has to be written so plainly. Like there's no poetry in that. It's plain, flat.
Mhm.
These people will always be considered second class citizens. And there are. I'll give you an interesting case in point. A friend of mine. Um, confided in me and told me, I mean, it wasn't like a secret or anything, but we were having a conversation and he had clued me in about how he felt after President Obama was elected. Like initially, it was like, oh, wow, we have a black president. But then, apparently laying down and sleeping on it. And, all of us come from somewhere. And, you know, sometimes in your household, the ideals that are in this book are what are taught to people of different races, right? So he actually said that he struggled with the idea that the president of the United States was a black man, even though he's not a person that is really racist, I guess. I mean, I guess we all have biases and things, but he had, I guess, some prejudice that he was unaware of until he really sat down and examined it. And we had a nice conversation about it, but I was appreciative that he was able to share that with me, and we were able to kind of flush it out and everything. But that just goes to show you how deeply ingrained this concept is, um, unfortunately.
I'm gonna go to the chat and then I'm gonna go to Shanice. The chat says the idea that a shield protects the police from often taking responsibility for being or doing their job in an unprofessional manner. This juxtaposed with Black men who believe their profession, education, or social standing will shield them from these types of interactions. I believe this is a big part of the defeated tone of the book. Shanice, what do you got to say?
I agree with all of you. You guys had significant
Thank you.
and how this is systematic and the system basically this is ingrained in the system. And that hopelessness is basically what you said. It's systematic. You can't change something that doesn't want to be changed. And we can obviously see that um, the system still thrives, and it thrives because I don't think people really want it to change. They want things to continue to remain the same. And if if not, then you had 400 and post, we're post slavery several years. You had an opportunity to rebuild, reconstruct, and change the system. And it continues to thrive because we let it thrive. So therefore, if we let it thrive, maybe we don't have a problem with this. And which is discouraging in the sense of raising children, raising their, them raising their children. You would hope that, several years past the assassination of Martin Luther King, several leaders died, hoping to change, and even having a Black president hoping for change, things don't change.
Another one from the chat, and I'll go back to Jeff. I understand your perspective and what you mean by the hopelessness you felt from reading those words. However, I don't think it's necessarily defeatist. I think that these words spoke more to how many others, non-Blacks, view Black people. That doesn't mean we can't improve our circumstances. Some of us can and have so very significant, but some others still don't view Black people as fully human, let alone as U.S. citizens. And that has an effect on how we are often treated by the criminal justice system. Is there another thing that kind of smacked you in the face, Jeff, as you were reading this? And if not, I can get back to like a question that I had overarching. but
A lot of the stories themselves made me think about other things. It kind of spiraled off, and one thought that I had, again, because it made me start researching other things, and seeing video interactions with more so in the community. So I'm interested on your take. If somebody wants to make a difference, a Black man says, I want to be a police officer. I want to change,
uh-huh.
I want to change the system from the inside. And I do believe that a lot of people go into positions like this to make a difference. At what point do you think they have to set aside their idealism because they've shackled themselves to a livelihood, that like my ability to affect change is stifled by the fact that I now need to pay rent. I now need to provide for my family, and this is my source of income. So I start compromising my values because my family's depending on me. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect
you
sense.
go in with the idea that like I am going to affect this change, and you slowly become unable because by speaking out, you jeopardize everything you hold dear.
Yes. Actually, Shanice and TJ both was like this, and I had something to say. I'll let Shanice go first.
Okay.
Shanice, go ahead.
So
Yeah.
I was gonna say too, if you know anything about the police, they're a brotherhood. So
Yes.
they're very brotherhood, and I got your back, you got my back brotherhood. And if you go against that sense of
The blue wall.
brotherhood,
You cut off.
that's it's not only you're losing your job, you're risking your protection. So I think it's a dangerous place for someone that would like to come in and make change, because those are the people that are supposed to have your back in the most dangerous situations in your life. Um, and you have to rely on them. And if they think, you're counter to their beliefs, it could be a very dangerous place. So my hat would go off to someone in that position, because you are in fact risking your life for change.
TJ, did you want to go next?
That was perfect. I guess I'll also to add to it. Part of the reason why it's difficult in a place like a police station is because it is militaristic in its ranking and hierarchy, like the command structure. You, like in the military, if you're a private and your sergeant tells you to do something, or your captain, or you're a lieutenant, it would have to be something that's really outrageous for you to be able to, I'll say, fight against that order and be justified in front of whoever the authority figures are. So if this kind of behavior is acceptable in the police department and you're not rolling with it, then they'll probably roll right over you.
So to address the question, the truth of the matter is, it becomes a a tipping point when the job becomes a career.
Right.
That's when it becomes a tipping point.
With the
Um,
job. But
yeah, for where we work, and I'm not going to say where, but I mean like for where we work, I always tell people if you're here 10 years and up, then it's over because the money is at a tipping point to where whatever you had going on before, it's all downhill from here.
No, and that's exactly what made me think about it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
No,
It's
no. Yeah, because and look, and everyone has their fights, their fights to their battle. They have their pick and choose of the battles they want to fight, so to speak, right? And everyone has to make those choices. It's like, does this make me less of whatever I think I am because I'm going along with this to get along with that? There's always other responsibilities and always other obligations. You can look at it from the perspective of what kind of person am I to support this stuff that's going on, or be in some way, form, or fashion a part of this thing that I find to be oppressive to people. And at the other ways, you can say, yeah, but I can't help nobody if I ain't got no money. So,
right.
so there's
Right.
always that perspective as well. I think that everything comes to a tipping point. I would say that is when a job becomes a career. And I would say that when it becomes that, you have to fight your battles. Also, to get back to something else that you were saying, where it becomes something where you want to change the system from inside. Excuse me, from inside. I find that to be a fallacy that a lot of people believe. I think that is unfortunate. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's not true, but I think it's fantastical to think that way. Because in order for you to get in charge, in order for you to get ahead in some of these places, you have to take on the characteristics and or the thought processes of those who have come before you. Therefore, the system does not change. It's the same thing as anything else. Now, like,
Yeah.
and this is not racist, praise the Lord. I love Obama as a president. To me, he's top five all time. But he was not going to do anything dramatically different than what we've seen other presidents do. You know what I mean? Not necessarily when it comes to black people. He was not, because that's not how the presidency works. That's just not that's not a thing. You know what I mean? He couldn't go up there and be like, it's Vengeance Day. That's not how that works. You know what I mean? So that's just not how things operate when you get up to that level. From that level, the seat that he has, he's looking down 350,000 meters and he's saying, okay, from this level, these are the things that I have to worry about. And sometimes the level that we're looking at is on the top of a table. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah.
It brings up a point, what you're saying. And again, this was a discussion I was having with my family. And this kind of divests itself from the book a little bit.
Okay.
But to this point, it's almost as if we stopped looking at the unfortunate fight for equality. It should just be given. Like we should stop saying that there are African Americans. There's Americans, hands down. If you're here, you're an American. And let's stop qualifying it. Like there's just no need for it. We agree that there are different cultures, and that we come from different backgrounds. But if we're here, we're Americans, But is there something that there was a shift? And I don't know. I think it was around Obama where it started to flood kind of the civil rights movement and the progress that was being made with, let's inject every cause into the overall speech. And it's like, if we flood everything, then every cause gets equal weight, which then lessens all of the causes. It's like, okay, which do you support? And it's like, hey, we can't have one discussion without including, and then it just starts piling on. It's like, no, we started here. We haven't finished what was started by Martin Luther King and Huey Newton, Malcolm X,
Right.
the greats, and it's like, we have not finished that. So why are we starting something else when we haven't finished that? We're like getting halfway there, and then we're flooding the marketplace with all of these other causes and saying that belong on equal footing. I disagree with the statement that they belong on the same foot. I think there's a time and a place for different discussions to be had. I think it waters down the overall topic of, hey, we haven't solved civil rights. We're not going to until we take it one problem at a time. Let's say we have, and by no means am I diminishing the argument. It's just an analogy. If I have a chore and it's to put the groceries away, I'm going to finish moving, the groceries from the car, putting them away. I'm not going to bring one bag in and then start vacuuming the floor and then going and clean the bathroom. No, and it's like, okay, that's what we're doing. We're not taking each problem individually. Thus, we end up with not changing the police culture. We're not saying, hey, here's a problem here. Why is it that I can go on Twitter every day and see something awful happen to a black man in America, and then a day later, a week later, it's replaced by some other sense of outrage? And I'm not going to get into some BS about the news cycle. It's like, no, let's finish talking about this. Let's have a discussion until we've reached a conclusion. Let's not just shelve this, move on to the next one. No, address it until it's completed, and let's find a real solution rather than keep prolonging the problem.
Yeah. Well,
I hope that made sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. I'll get TJ on it first, and then I'll go, and then Shanice will go, and then we'll let you off the hook as far as carrying the show. So TJ, go ahead.
I mean, his point is spot on, but to me it raises the other question. Well, I guess the other obvious question for me is, okay, well, if that's happening, do you believe that that's happening by design, or do you think it's just, happening?
I don't mean to interject. I absolutely believe it's happening by design.
Yeah.
I completely do.
Yeah. All right. So if that's the case, then that would suggest that the reason that it's happening is because those that benefit from the status quo wanted to remain in place. And by doing this, it can, if nothing else, it can prolong it. It can prolong the advantages. And I get it. Like if you're getting a leg up, or if you're seeing some benefits and advantages from the way things are, I guess it's human nature to want that to continue, right? So I'm not, throwing stones saying that if the races were flipped, we would never do such a thing, because it's kind of a human thing. But if we truly want to live by the tenets that the country was supposed to be founded on, then we've got to start doing what you were suggesting, taking an issue and working it to completion so that we can continue to improve ourselves as a nation. And hopefully we see that happen. We'll see.
This brings me back actually to this Bill Burr joke that got both laughed at and panned, and it was the summation of the joke was basically like, why do gay people have the month of June and black people have cold February when it comes to their months to celebrate their differences, right? And it's funny, but it to me it spoke volumes, and this isn't against gay people or whatever they're fighting for, but it spoke volumes of February is the shortest month of the entire year.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's one of the coldest months of the entire year. And these are both things that are counter to everything for black people within this country. And that's the month that they were like, cool, we'll just leave it with that. Give them this February. Oh, don't get me wrong, February is the greatest month in the world, personally. But I mean, but it just kind of gets to the point of what they were saying. And to what you were saying, Jeff, I believe that is the new way to stifle these new movements, specifically when it comes to black people, because a lot of the things that people are standing on are the things that, at least within this country, that we started. Like, we taught people how to protest, we taught people how to raise issues through the legal system, we taught people how to literally taught people, like they had camps and they had these different missions that they would do, and everyone has taken that playbook, including the supremacists on the other side, and used it to their advantage.
Mhm.
Everybody's used it, and because it works, and it was a brilliant plan from the beginning. But it is difficult for people to care if you flood. It's just like what is going on now. Like when people flood the market full of information, you don't know what to pay attention to.
Mhm.
Even if the thing that originally got you there was, in our case, it's the prime issue, right? But if you flood the market with it, people are gonna just after a while be like throw their hands up. It's like, man, these people are never satisfied, as
Mhm.
opposed to trying to actually deal with the situation that people aren't satisfied with. They more so look at you as the problem for complaining,
Right.
as opposed to the problem itself being the problem. Because the money's in the problem, the money's not in the solution. That's how it's always been. That's how it always will be. Shanice, you got it, and then I'll go to the chat.
Okay, I don't have much in this because you guys said it all.
Reach.
So, but yeah, I definitely agree with again with Aji and TJ and you, Jeff, that it's a lot to focus on one issue if you got many issues at hand. And like IG said, the civil rights movement was a blueprint for other movements to start, and um but the civil rights movement never really came to fruition. So I agree. It's if unless you truly, let's like you said, unless we really have equal footing, unless we have equity, unless we have all the things that we truly need to flourish as a people, then and we're not focusing on it, then it's just going to be a continued issue. And if we focus on everything else, um, we're not going to see any results. So I don't know what the solution would be to that. And like, as everybody say, okay, we're just focusing on Black people. That would be great. And then we can focus on this, and then we maybe can do a list, a to-do list, and then go down because there's a lot of problems in the world. A lot of people have issues. And there's always going to be something where someone's like, well, this person has it better than me, and I don't like that. And these people, it's always going to be something. So it's good to focus in. And so, yeah, I agree with everybody. And like, that's my 2 cents on that because you guys said everything.
Bloody word taken. From the chat, America decided long ago that race isn't a problem here. Life has absolutely changed for Black Americans since slavery, but true equality and fairness haven't been reached. It will be difficult to talk about something we can't all agree is even an issue. That's a profound statement.
Yeah.
Just getting back to the book real quick.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No,
I didn't
no,
mean.
no, no. Thanks a lot, Jeff. No, you're good, man. Just getting back to the book real quick, and then we can do another round of that if need be. Um, there was a chapter. I want to say it was chapter 2, where the form of identity came up
Mm,
um,
Yeah.
I know
within
that.
the book, and I thought that was just fascinating. How the guy identified himself as a bunch of different things. He kind of did Tiger Woods cobble Asian
Yeah.
thing. People like me be like use a sellout, but I mean, like other people might not look at it that way. You know what I mean? But actually, as I've grown older, I've found that issue to be more and more complicated because to look at my mom and if she was a different race and to say I'm just gonna dismiss that portion of myself is
Mm,
it's a bigger thing than I had given it credit for growing up. Now, at the same time, I think that you are what the world kind of sees you as, and when it comes to racial terms. However, I thought that this part was interesting. So that all brings me back to this question as I stop jabbering on. What does the idea of identity mean to you, and how does that play out in terms of just you walking around here in America? I'll start with Shanice this time. You have to go first.
okay, so what does the word identity mean to me? Identity means basically who you are, who you identify with. It could be your race, it could be your culture, it could be whatever makes you. That's your identity. And then, unfortunately, in this country, we have made identity something that can benefit us or hurt us. Um, I'm also going to bring up a point about like when the guy said when he went to other countries,
Mm-hmm.
they identified us as American, like you're black, but you're American. And I that theme kind of ran across with another book I was reading, and they were saying, well, they would call them white people in their language, even though I think that they were both in African countries, even though they were black. So this sense of identity, I guess it depends on where you are. Um, that's what I would say. So like how you're seen, how you view, first identity is personal, how you identify yourself. And then identity is worldly, how people view you. So those two may not always be the same. So if I identify myself as black, but someone else identifies myself as American, if I'm out somewhere else, then it may not match up.
And they definitely do as a person who's lived overseas. But I'll let TJ probably expand on that. TJ, go ahead.
No, that was perfect. I mean, identity is it's simple, but it's also complicated somehow, right?
Mhm.
It's how you see yourself and how everybody else sees you. Hopefully, so I guess maybe you could technically break it down into, like self-identity versus, I guess what other people's perspective on what they think that you are. Um, and I guess maybe in this country specifically, it's more difficult because, like the gentleman in chapter two, I forget his name, the one who wrote it down. Um, but we're usually comprised of a bunch of different
Mhm.
um, cultures and races within our own family.
Mhm.
Um, I think probably any one of us could probably trace at least what, five or six different cultures that exist, not even, four generations ago. So it's not just how you see yourself, of course, is important, but it's also what was input into you as your identity by those that raised you. So I think, especially as a child, that is probably the most important because you really haven't discovered who you are just yet. And then once you get to maturity, I guess you become a a compilation of all of those different things that you have been, stamped with coming up. So identity is complicated, but simple at the same time.
Jeff, what do you got on this one, man?
I think as I've gotten older, definitely identity for me is just has just broken down to being a good person to other people that I meet, not waiting. And again, I may be oversimplifying it, but it means to me, I'm going to be the person that says hello first when I'm walking down the street. I'm not looking at another person and judging them by any means, by the way they're dressed, color of their skin, anything. I'm gonna say hi, you know.
Mhm.
Uh it's being okay with who I am, you know. I don't realize the way that somebody is going to look at me. So my first I've been made aware over my lifetime that, I give off a certain look. I've been reminded of it a couple of times. Uh, I shared a story with you.
Yeah, we don't have to
Yeah,
get into the
and
Indian
it's
story.
but it's I know the way that I present myself can play me in a certain light, and so my approach is, and it's ingrained in me now. It's not something that I do um consciously. It's just second nature is to be good, just simply holding the door, saying hello. If somebody needs $5, if I have it, they've got it, and it doesn't matter. I think identity for me, and maybe it's different. It's just, it comes down to that, just being true to yourself and being a good person.
Yeah, that's a good wrap up. We are unfortunately running out of time, so I'm going to ask everybody to see what they are looking forward to for the rest of the book and how they feel about it. And I will start with ladies first. I guess I'll go Shanice. then I'll go Jeff, and then I'll go TJ, and then I'll close it out. Shanice, what you got?
Looking forward to such a short. So I would say I'm interested in reading the rest of the book to see the rest of the encounters. It's nothing that I'm really looking forward to per se,
Yeah.
but I do want to see if it ends in some resolve. Is there a solution to this problem? Is the author going to, or the narr whoever? Let me see, because this is. Well, it's just introduced. They don't have like a overarching. Is
Yeah.
it the person that wrote the intro? Are they going to have some summation of this? Is there going to be some like, hey, now you heard all these stories. Now what can we do about them? Because it's it's not great out there in America. Sure,
It's cold
if you're
blooded.
dealing with if you're dealing with systematic stuff, I gotta say.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot more disappointment and a lot more eye-opening, especially as I read it. And again, you've been great as I kind of held back a lot of the questions that I have, because a lot of this resonates to a lot of discussions that we've had late at night. It
Yeah.
reminds me of there are subtleties that I think that white Americans could benefit from if it's let off, like you alluded to, TJ. I think you alluded to it at the beginning of this, that these are conversations that Black men have to have with their children growing up, that, hey, you need to expect this. This is something that I know that my parents didn't have with me. It's not something that is thought of or even known. And I think it's things like that that needs to be expressed, that, hey, this is a concern that we have. That in and of itself is how you get stories like this to diminish. It's like, hey, my interactions with people in authority have to be different because of the color of my skin. And until everyone realizes that, not everyone, but until non-Blacks understand that these are the conversations that are going on behind closed doors, we can't start to have an honest discussion, because we're not starting on equal footing, And I think that the book is going to progress that way, and having that in the back of your mind, that these are stories based on, I was expecting this, this was something that was going to happen. How do I handle myself and then be okay with it? Like, I don't know how, and then how do you expect me to then not shake or twinge every time lights go off behind me? It's I don't know. I have finished the book, so I do. I wish that there was more closure, but there's not. This is 12 stories. It's and it. The sad thing is, it's only 12. There could be 120. There could be 1.2 million. We know that. And I think we benefit by saying these are only 12. There are so many more, and that, I think that's the most heartbreaking thing about the book.
TJ.
Yeah. I guess what I'm looking forward to, if you can say that, in the book is to hear the accounts, firsthand from the people that experienced them. I mean, as we know, not all encounters end with somebody being able to tell their story, right? So that's one thing that I'm kind of looking forward to, is that all these men survived the encounter. I'm curious to see if there are, 12 different approaches when the officers came in and stopped him for no reason or for very little reason or whatever. I'm curious to see that. Kind of looking forward to to understanding all of the different types of circumstances and different places where this happened. I mean, so far it's been, in the middle of a bad neighborhood. It's been in a good neighborhood. It's been in an airport. I mean, is this one of those things where, no matter where you go, you're screwed, or is it, or is it going to be,
Got any grocery store stories? Grocery store stories.
stores everywhere? So I don't know. It's been interesting so far. For me, the most interesting part of it is the diversity of the backgrounds of the people that were profiled. And we've gotten some pretty good ones so far. Everything from, a teenager to I think it was he a congressman or something?
Yeah, the local congressman. Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what else is there. I'm looking forward to seeing who else is in this book and um, how their interaction escalated. If it started off right away where the cops just slammed him on the hood, or if it's something that even though you kind of know that there's a possibility of being profiled, of being pulled over, even though you know that logically, um, it's very difficult to sometimes keep your emotions in check, even though you were told by the people before you about it, even though you know that you didn't do anything wrong and that there's nothing to be upset about initially. It's just it can be insulting. It kind of feels like a personal assault and affront. So I'm curious to see um, how that plays out and how it escalates between all the men that are part of these stories.
Well, I mean, it's gonna be hard to follow all that. But I'm just looking forward to the rest of the book. I mean, it's a good book. It is a book that I think needs to be more widely distributed and known of and understood, if for no other reason than just for people to understand that this happens regularly. And it happens, as TJ said, to people of all stripes and all different fashions that happen to be Black in this particular case. But this could be, as Jeff had mentioned, a 1,000-page, a 1,000-story, book. It could be a bunch of stories. And the interesting part about the book itself is, you know, it's sort of a time capsule because all this stuff didn't happen at the very same time. It's kind of a time capsule of how long this has been happening. Well before cell phones were a thing, you had to believe someone's word on it. And I think actually was it Will Smith who said the only thing different between now and then was that we have cell phones? Like this is something crazy like that can be attributed to Will Smith. But it just kind of goes to show how much damage something like an interaction like a bad interaction with law enforcement can have, because um, it's not just the simple insult of being accused of doing something that you didn't do. It's also money out of your pocket to get out of prison if it goes, or jail in this case, if it goes that far. It's the insult of having to get fingerprinted if it goes that far. It's an insult of, it's a bunch of different things. And if you want to fight it, you got to pay someone else to help you out to fight it. And it's just a lot of rigmarole. I'm interested just to see how diverse the stories are moving forward. But hey, we've already run over time. Thanks everybody for watching. You know what I mean? And to everyone else, peace and advance.